Hi there, and welcome to Naturally Recovering Autism. I am your host, Karen Thomas, and I really want to thank you so much for being here, being a proactive parent, getting the resources you need. We just finished an incredible masterclass I do twice a year, and I had so many parents coming into the membership program and excited to move forward with their kids. And I just love how proactive parents can be. And, my own story was the same way. I mean, I was told to drug my son and try behavioral therapies when he was diagnosed with autism. And I didn't want to do that. My background in studying the brain in craniosacral therapy and in holistic health taught me that the brain could heal, it could recover. But I didn't know much about autism at the time either. And this was 15 years ago now. And so I dove in and I researched and researched and researched. And it took me about a decade, but today my son no longer is even diagnosable. He does not have any symptoms of autism left that he once had that were debilitating, these stomach aches that would wake him up at 3 a.m. screaming, the headaches, the sensory overload that made it hard to sit in a classroom or focus and concentrate, and even the aggressive and irritability issues. And today he is the mellowest, most easygoing guy. So I like to make sure you know as a parent, your child is not an angry person. It's that their brain is toxic and inflamed. And when you remove those, they're able to sleep better. They're able to think and focus in a classroom. They can stay calm and they don't have these mood issues, or they can be greatly reduced. So I really want to make sure you know of the entire process that's necessary, because this is more than just diet. Although diet's very important, it's much more than that to really get the best results for your child. So I've put it together in a free online workshop for you. And going through the 4 stages to naturally recover from autism. Stage 1 is healing the gut. Stage 2 is natural, safe, heavy metal detoxification. Stage 3 is clearing the co-infections like mold and Lyme and strep. And then 4th, once the inflammation and toxins are out of the way, then we do some brain support and repair. And this is all done naturally. So please access that. You can register for it now, and please share the link with anybody you know who could benefit from it. The link is naturallyrecoveringautism.com/free workshop. So I just want to make sure that you have that. And also today we're going to be talking more about some of those pieces with how fundamentally important it is with getting rid of pathogens and toxins slowly with a child with autism. Now, this is important in anybody's detoxification process, but especially with kids with autism, because they are so sensitive. Their livers are usually congested and backed up. Their lymphatic systems, which help drain some of those toxins out of their system, usually that's not working and draining properly. And this is critical, and especially in the beginning and the first stages of the whole recovery process. And of course, we don't say that we treat, cure, diagnose, anything like that. This is for informational purposes only. But today we will be sharing some supplements that I have used in my own son's recovery process, and working with Robert Harrison, who I'm going to introduce to you here in a moment, because Robert has been working with kids with autism for a good 17 years. And he first started with suggestions for detoxification and then pathogen removal and nutritional supplementation. And then about a decade ago, he added frequency-enhanced elixirs. And we're going to explain this to you because it's a different concept. They're liquid, but we'll be talking about that today. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And they have instructions in them to basically heal the needs of those with autism or work in specific ways, because a lot of the systems of the body start breaking down when there's a toxic inflammation overload, and the inflammation can really just prevent your child from recovering. So we have to support these, but again, very, very slowly. And as these proved to be really successful and useful, then he added other elixirs dealing with other specific issues he saw the parents were working with, especially kids on the autism spectrum. So Robert Harrison is here with us today, and we are going to have a discussion about all of these things and help you, hopefully, as a parent to kind of troubleshoot with your child and be able to give you some resources to utilize as well. So welcome, Robert, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Karen. You do a lot for a lot of people.
I try. One mom actually just wrote me this morning. She said, "Do you ever sleep?" Because I answered an email for her. And I said, "What's that?" I'm getting ready to go out and do my radio show now.
Right.
Yeah, and she was a grandparent. And she might be listening right now, and I won't give any names because I like to keep privacy, but I want to give a shout out to you because I love that grandparents, a lot of the time when they get involved, they're really there to support their kids and the grandchild and the whole process. And, family is vitally important. My grandparents were a vital part of my childhood, and my parents have been a vital part of my children's childhood. And I do appreciate that kind of support. I think it's so important. And family is very important. So today, Robert, we're going to, let's dive in a little bit to, why don't we start from the beginning with, these poor detoxification pieces that go on with children with autism. And, and then we'll talk about pathogens as well. And then we will go into some of the resources and things but I think it's, first of all, important to say that we find that most kids have pathogens and definitely have a toxic overload when they have autism. And so what have you found is, I guess we'll start at square one, the first thing that you like to work with and what you find most important?
Sure. There's, my view is that, it's sort of a combination of both pathogens and, toxins. Toxin exposure. And you have these pathogens like mold, limes, candida overgrowth, I feel is a big one, that produce just a lot of toxins in the body. And, in the body then, the liver becomes overwhelmed. It gets used up in a sense. There's candida toxins, mold toxins. They can literally, damage the genes that produce the enzymes for the detox pathways in the liver. So you get the liver that's not producing toxins, or not handling toxins, sorry. It's not producing these enzymes, so it's not handling toxins. And so toxins build up in the body. The body has to get them out of the bloodstream, so it puts them in cells. And so these kids have a whole ton of toxins that are stuck in their cells, including their brain cells, disrupting brain function. The toxins produce most of the symptoms when they're out of the cells, though. So it's a matter of, you just can't say, okay, let's do some, detoxification processes and remove the toxins that are, are readily available, because then the cells will produce or release even more toxins, and all of a sudden you have those toxins causing symptoms. So it turns into a very, slow process of detoxifying. Yeah.
And I think that is the key is that we'll talk about today, the importance of moving slowly. I know parents, even myself back in the day, you get really eager and you want to move, you just want to get your kid better, and you do start doing things quickly, or you don't know what you're doing. And then that's important to have that support and really have a roadmap and a process to it, but also to move as slowly as possible and know that this autism recovery is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We need to take a short break right here, but when we come back, we'll dive right back into this. You're listening to Naturally Recovering Autism. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Have you ever wondered why some children recover from their symptoms of autism while others never seem to get any better? After 13 years of research, Karen Thomas has recovered her own son from his symptoms of autism naturally. She now shares how she did it with you in her free webinar so that you can have the right resources and knowledge to help your child. The definition of recovery is to regain health. Karen offers this to you in 4 stages: healing the gut, natural heavy metal detoxification, balancing the co-infections of autism, brain support, and repair. Register now for this free webinar to help you know what you can do to help your child to sleep better, be more calm, improve focus, and reach their fullest potential to live a happy, healthy life. Go to naturallyrecoveringalautism.com/free workshop, empowering parents with the resources to naturally recover autism from a mom who...
Hi there, and welcome back to Naturally Recovering Autism. I'm your host, Karen Thomas, and today we are talking about getting rid of pathogens and toxins slowly slowly, and how fundamental that is in autism recovery in the process. And wanted to mention that today's show notes will be for you at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/75, just the number 75, because there will be some links that I want to make sure that you're able to access from this show as well. So if you're out driving, you're on your morning walk, whatever it is, that you'll know how to easily go back and find those resources if you're listening in while you're mobile. Anyway, so Robert Harrison is with us today, and we were talking before the break about some of the pathogens and toxins that children with autism have. And if you listen to my show for last week, I interviewed a doctor, and we talked about the MTHFR genetic mutation, and this is a methylation or a detoxification mutation, and 98% of kids with autism have this. And what that means, too, is that they have poor detoxification from the get-go, from the beginning. So, but that gene can also be disrupted that can also be disrupted from toxins. And before the break, Robert, you were talking about how candida and mold toxins can damage genes of the detoxification pathway. So that's why I wanted to mention the MTHFR. Mm-hmm. But right. Kids can often be born with even candida, or they can get it in utero, they can get it from the vaginal canal, and then they can be, more susceptible. So you want to talk about that a little bit too?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here with this, so many kids developing autism these days is a combination, this is sort of my personal theory anyway, of two things. One is that more and more mothers have candida overgrowth. They probably got it from their mothers. And because candida is this fungal overgrowth that, and fungal overgrowth produce spores. And so even though people may take antifungals or do herbs, the spores just rebloom and you still have the candida. So it's not gotten rid of. So it's just becoming more and more people. So the baby picks it up at birth. It could be Lyme's also, it doesn't have to be candida, but most of the time it's candida. And they have this huge toxic load at birth because candida and Lyme both produce a considerable amount of toxins. And then those toxins will definitely damage the genes like the methylation genes and the pathways in the liver. And so the liver, which is overwhelmed from the start, even becomes less usable, and then you just have these toxins that build up in the body. And they're put in cells, they're gotten out of the way as good as possible, but they're still all over the place and disrupting cellular function. And then if someone is exposed to, say, a toxic overload, whether it's from Roundup in the lawn or it's vaccinations, their liver, their body isn't able to get rid of those toxins like it would if you were if a kid didn't have those issues. It wasn't exposed at birth to candida overgrowth. And it's probably that combination of both things that really sets up the complete so many toxins, so much disruption that you have autistic, you have the inflammation, you have all the autism symptoms.
Well, and it's important for parents to know, too, we do pass along the, certain things like candida can even just be passed. You're sharing a glass of water with somebody. You're sharing a fork or dipping your fork into somebody else's food to taste that. And then you're exchanging these pathogens as well. So it's very important. I always tell parents, you're doing a lot of great work with your kids. Make sure you're doing work on yourself and the siblings and the rest of the family, so everybody is not just passing things back around with each other. What's the best way that you would say to begin tackling some of this?
So with some of my, my elixirs, first off, I should say, have specific instructions that the body tends to be able to follow, just based on my experience of having feedback for a decade with them. And so the fundamental elixirs and the way that works well for many people, because it can be so incremental, is to use an elixir like Candid Expel to start removing pathogens from the body. And rather than killing the pathogens, the Candid Expel has instructions telling the lymph system and the immune system to grab hold of toxins, or not toxins, but grab hold of candida or other pathogens, sort of just don't kill them, but take them, package them up, take them to the skin, colon, get rid of them, push them out of the body, so you're not causing any additional, die-off of toxins from the dead, killed candida. And so it's a gentle way to be, starting to detoxify, to get rid of the pathogens. And you can start at just, 1 drop a day is what we usually recommend, unless it's a, older child, maybe 1 drop twice a day. Now, someone who's 10 years old might work up to doing 10 drops twice a day. So we're literally starting at a just very small amount to gradually start to remove some toxin, some candida, or other pathogens, whatever it is. It'll work on viruses or bacteria, etc. And then the other part of it is getting rid of the toxins, and that's the other main fundamental. And so we have toxin elimination elixir, getting the lymph system, the immune system to grab hold of toxins and carry them out of the body too, so you're not overloading the liver. Because once you get the workup on the toxin elimination elixir to where you're doing, the sort of full amount for the age of your child, there'll be consistent toxin removal. And and the liver just can't handle those toxins, because it's it needs to be recovering. You can handle some, but you can't. You have to be able to bypass the liver to really get these toxins out efficiently.
Right. And then when parents really see, just as a symptom to watch for as a parent, if you're seeing really increased behaviors, it usually means that the body is detoxifying faster than the liver can keep up with. So we'll dive back into this after this short break. You're listening to Naturally Recovering Autism. Stay with us. We will be right. Hi there, and welcome back to Naturally Recovering Autism. I'm your host, Karen Thomas, and today we are talking about the pathogens and the toxin removal and how important it is to do it slowly in children with autism, and giving you some background about why they might be backed up with toxins and what parts of their body, things like the liver and getting congested, and how those things can back up and how you can help to get the toxins moving and out of their systems. Because as I mentioned, that if you see a real increase in behaviors, it's usually a need for more, I always say binders, some type of a toxin support system that can sop up some of the extra toxins. And I have used these elixirs that we're talking about with our guest, Robert Harrison, for over a decade now, even with my own son's recovery, and I've shared them with now hundreds of people worldwide, and they've had great success. It's a little bit different concept to understand, so that's why we're explaining them to you, but they're very, very effective, and they're liquid and taste like water, which is really helpful because we know our kids, especially with their sensory overload, which is another thing we'll talk about here soon, is something else that can be helped by these elixirs. But you need to work on it, even with the picky eating aspect in the beginning. When you're trying to transition into the good foods, sometimes your kids might not want to eat a food because the sensory overload in their mouth is so strong. So these are really helpful with it. And why don't we pick up where we left off? We were talking about toxin elimination elixir, which is one of my favorites because I use it every single day, at least twice a day. And because we are all exposed to toxins all the time. And I think it's important to make sure that your body doesn't get backlogged with too much. So Robert, if you could kind of just continue on with we're talking about
Sure.
Detoxification and not overloading the liver, and how you can easily get these out without the body having to take on too much of the burden.
Right. Yeah. I noticed when I developed, after I made the toxin elimination elixir and people started to use it, and this was with adults with candida overgrowth at first, with a lot of toxicity, folks who were very sensitive and couldn't really handle any sort of detoxing, was they were able to start at low doses to remove some toxins. And as the toxic load starts to reduce a little bit, then you can start doing other things on top of it. But but what I learned when I was sort of going through this process of getting feedback from customers as to what was happening with the toxin elimination elixir was that, the cells so many cells are so full of toxins, have toxins put into them, and those cells don't want toxins in there, but they can't release toxins because the blood has to be kept a certain purity. And if there's already toxins sort of outside in the bloodstream because, the liver hasn't been removing them, and they're in fact in the process of being, put into more cells, they can't release their toxins because they got to keep that blood pure. So if you start removing toxins and just, with instructions, getting the lymph system to carry the toxins, out of the body. So or with the binders and other, to grab hold of toxins and to just remove them, you even have to do that slowly, because incrementally at first, because the cells are going to notice that there's more toxins or less toxins around, and they're going to dump toxins. So if you go too quickly and you're removing toxins a lot by doing a large dose of toxin elimination, by doing big doses of binders and so on, there's so many toxins that get removed that you have trillions of cells or billions of cells or whatever releasing toxins. And so you have more toxins than before, and those toxins cause behaviors. They cause symptoms when they're sort of out and about, in a sense, in the blood and around the cells and so on. And so you will notice, and if you're going too fast, you will see behaviors develop. So if you have sort of a baseline, your child has sort of a baseline of symptoms, behaviors that they exhibit, and you're starting to use some of these, my take is the second that you notice there seems to be an increase in anxiety, anger, any sort of whatever their behavior happens to be, any sort of increase in that, you're going a bit too fast. And stop for a day or two, let it come, let those toxins get stuck back into cells because there are too many being released. And then, go at a slower rate and just go, but, so you don't have the behaviors developing. Because this is not something that you can push your way through. It can take several years of consistent toxin removal to get that toxin load down in the body. So it's nothing fast. You just have to go slow. That is so important, and that is both especially with the detoxifiers, and especially with the pathogen fighters, pathogen killers, etc. If you're doing any sort of those, because if you're taking some antifungals or anti-herbs or drugs or whatever that are killing mold, Lyme, killing candida, then you get toxins being released from those dead pathogens too. So you got to go super slow with the pathogen fighting. And I've had customers where, finally after a year and a half or more of using like the canned expel, it's no longer really being needed, that the pathogens have been gotten rid of, but it's at least that long a time frame. And then that's if you're doing it consistently, and it's not going to get faster by doing more, because you're just going to have too many behaviors developing. And then again, and toxins are at least twice as long as that if you want to. This is a long-term process here.
And it's important to maintain these things, because increased stress or a poor diet with a lot of sugars in it, these things can also feed that bad bacteria that it thrives on. So it's kind of a delicate balance there.
Yes, there's so many other possibilities of things can go on, the bacterial overgrowth, and there's just so many different issues. So when we're talking about, in broad terms, pathogens and toxins, that's not taking into account all these other imbalances and things that can throw off the system. But these are the fundamental ones, right?
Exactly. And we can also, maybe after the break, talk a little bit about some of the other side pieces that we see commonly, because the sensory overload, the anxiousness, some of those things that are there, and you even have one for sleep. So things can be, there are other pieces that will help just assist to support the systems of the body during the process. And like you mentioned too, the release of toxins too quickly, also known as die-off or Herxheimer, that's something that's really important to know about. I've linked to a piece that I wrote on die-off a while back on the show notes. Again, they're at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/75. So, and people can learn a little bit more about what die-off really is, but that's what's nice about these elixirs, even though you can sometimes see increased behaviors because the body is just simply detoxifying, but this is the gentler process to help assist it. So we're going to take a short break right here. Stay with us. We will be right. Hi there, and welcome back to Naturally Recovering Autism. I am your host, Karen Thomas. Today we have Robert Harrison with us, and we're talking about getting rid of pathogens and toxins slowly and how fundamentally important that is in children with autism, really with anyone, for a safe detoxification process. Again, you want to be on the right organic diet without a lot of pesticides and anything else that's going to help increase more of that toxic overload along your way. Try and make sure your home is as safe as possible. You're not drinking tap water, various things that you can do there as well. But one of the things that does back up is the liver, which being our main organ of detoxification. If the liver is backed up, then you can see a lot of increased behaviors, especially if you detoxify too quickly. So one of your elixirs, Robert, that I have used successfully for many years is liver detoxification pathways elixir, and it helps to assist both phase 1 and phase 2 of liver detoxification, which a lot of other products will only really cover or assist the first phase. So can you give our listeners some background on the two phases of liver detoxification so that they understand what it is that I just said and what that means, and how this particular elixir can help?
Yeah. So the first phase of liver detoxification is when liver is pulling toxins out of the blood and getting them ready to be processed so that they can then be removed from the body. And that's the phase 1. And that's, typically what gets, supported more with liver supplements. The phase 2 part is there's 8 or 10 different detox pathways in the liver. Each of them sort of handles a different toxin and processes a different way. And by a pathway, we mean a series of enzymes that do actions that will be to process the toxin so it can be gotten rid of. And those pathways those enzymes are produced by or turned on production by genes, and those genes genetically get damaged by toxins, and so you have these pathways that aren't working, and so you can pull out the toxins, but the liver can't get rid of them, and they either sit there clogging up the liver, or they eventually get pushed out of the liver and put back in cells somewhere else in the body, but they're there causing problems. And so the liver detox pathways elixir tells the body to turn on production of those enzymes. We found that elixirs have anything that the body can regulate, like production enzyme. We can tell the body to take that action with an elixir, and the frequencies in it will turn on production of those enzymes. And so you start with the liver detox pathways elixir. You start the liver starts to be able to process toxins better because the enzymes are being produced for those detox pathways. And then at the same time, there's also some instructions that are telling the body to repair the damage to the genes so that the genes can then start turning on those, production of the enzymes themselves. My experience is when I'm muscle testing these protocols for a child is that, say, after 4 or 5 months or so, usually the liver detox pathway elixir is not near as needed anymore because mostly the genes have turned on production of the enzymes, and so we don't have to do it with the elixir anymore. So it's a shorter time frame for success with this one of doing what it needs to do. Then you can go on to working on other issues, and a lot of the other elixirs that we have also are really shorter time frames than what you usually see with what I've mentioned before with the canned expel and the toxin elimination elixir, for example. The sensory overload elixir is an elixir we made to reduce, the sensory, basically it's a sensory overload, just calming down the senses so that they don't over-respond so much. And it's one of the main elixirs that I find children need when they're first getting started, and eventually down the road, though, that sensory overload's gotten calmed down so much that it's not needed eventually, and then you can move on to working on other issues also, because there's always deeper issues that go on. Restful sleep elixir, mostly a certain portion of the time their kids just don't sleep well, as you know, Karen. And it's because of the toxins, basically. They're just so wired from the toxins in the brain that there's that they just can't fall asleep. And then, there's other aspects of that too, hormones and so on. But really, I view that as like a toxin issue. But it takes a long time to deal with toxins. But with a restful sleep elixir, has a possibility of improving people's, kids' sleep sooner than it would otherwise if you're just counting on, okay, we've got to get rid of these toxins to have, sleep improve. And so if someone has very poor sleep, the restful sleep elixir is going to be one of the more important ones to be starting with. If it's just one of the many symptoms, it's not a huge issue, then it may be, sort of further down the list in order of importance, but still vital to be using.
Right. And you usually, mentioned there are a few to start with, and you just, like you said, start very, very slowly, titrate up just like one drop to begin with some of them. Because you mentioned muscle testing, I will link on the show notes page to my one of my muscle testing videos, so anyone listening can have a little tutorial and be able to kind of understand how that works a little bit and practice it at home yourself, because it can be very helpful to know if a product is accepted by your child's body at that time or not, and then also what dosages can change daily, literally, because as our body detoxifies, we go up and down in our process, and how many toxins are being released each day. And so we want to make sure that we're working with the body, not just trying to force it to do something.
Yeah, that muscle testing can work so well if you take the time to learn how to do it and keep trying it, because you could have whatever it is, one of the supplements you recommend or one of my elixirs, and it's been going along just fine, but really at some point the body says, hey, I need a break, and you don't know it. And if you continue giving that at that regular dose, all of a sudden you're going to see behaviors developing because the body needs that break. Things are, and so muscle testing, if you can do it yourself, do it every day and kind of check and make sure, what can you handle today? You can
Right.
deal with that. You can get it over.
Yeah, and I'll give this link to this one video in my membership program. I have, I think, about 7 different tutorials to show different ways to do it, because you can also do it for a child who is not willing or able to be tested. You can do it on yourself, on their behalf too, just so that parents listening know that as well. We need to take a short break right here. Please stay with us. We'll be right there. And welcome back to Naturally Recovering Autism. I'm your host, Karen Thomas. Today we are talking with Robert Harrison about how to get rid of pathogens and toxins slowly and safely, and how fundamental that is, especially in children with autism, because they're so sensitive, and so it's very, very important to know these very important things that we're talking about here. And we're giving you some ways, some resources to help support their systems. And I think it's important to know as well, we've talked about the elixirs, a little bit about muscle testing, but you might still be wondering, well, how do they work? Because they taste like water, they're liquid. So some of them, and Robert, maybe you can go into how you work with them to give these frequency enhanced. And I know it goes into a lot of depth in quantum physics and everything else, but kind of just as much as you can kind of give the layperson to help some understanding about them, that might be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is when I first sort of learned about how this could happen, I didn't know if it would work or not. Whether the elixirs would work, and really the reason that I keep making elixirs for different issues is because of the feedback that it works. And this explanation here that I'm going to briefly tell you about why it works is doesn't really matter at all to understand, because it is entirely possible that we wouldn't be able to influence the body as we seem to be able to do, if for whatever reason, but we can. It does happen. So it's really, at some point it is, I know this works because of the feedback, and a lot of feedback. We've sold hundreds of thousands of bottles of elixirs for various issues. The water has its own ability, its own memory to sort of hold vibrational frequencies. And even instructions like words have their own vibrational frequency. And this has to do with quantum physics explaining that there is energy behind everything. And energy is basically frequencies. And the cells in your body have, each cell has like a gel water in it, a water with minerals and other things. And literally, you can take in, energy from the brain, emotions, whatever, and respond to it. That's part of the way that the cells communicate and work together as a whole, is through this whole, the water in the cells responding to energy frequencies from the heart or the brain or wherever else. So the instructions that we put into the elixirs, which are amplified vibrational frequencies of sets of instructions that we want the body to take action on, the cells that can respond to them, they pick up the frequencies just like they pick up anything else from the brain or the heart or wherever, because that's just part of the cellular communication system. And the cells that have, that can take action will respond. The other cells that don't have anything to do with those instructions, it's just like, you have a radio station, you have to tune into a particular radio station to get the message, to get the station. And so it's only the cells that need to respond that respond, to the elixirs. So it's there's science behind this that explains this more, etc. But that's fundamentally what's going on, is we're able to take these instructions and almost talk to the body at this nonverbal frequency level. and the cells in response.
And some people, this is
clear,
kind of,
Karen, or?
Yeah, I know. I always struggle with trying to explain this one too, and I know on your website, and again, we'll link on the show notes directly to Robert's website and all of the, where you can find these elixirs, and also he has a clear, stronger, longer explanation of how kind of the quantum physics aspects of it and everything. It's quite detailed, but yeah, I appreciate you making the effort to explain this, and like you said, and that's when I am sharing them with other people. Sometimes I'll just give some of the testimonials that people have written into me with on how the changes they saw in their child from the elixirs, especially even in the very beginning, is one of the very, very first things I do in my membership program as I have people, contact you and they need to or be able to start with these elixirs to support the systems that aren't being supported yet. And this includes parents that have been working for children for a long time. There are a lot of people who are like, well, I've been trying the great organic diet and all these things, and I just haven't, really gotten the results I was looking for. Well, not only are the other stages, again, that I talked about, again, that are available in my free workshop that I'll link to as well in the show notes, but the natural heavy metal detoxification, the co-infections, mold, Lyme, and strep, those are all just so important in autism recovery and so missed so often. But these elixirs, I find, are just so helpful in supporting, and especially I remember I found you in my quest when I was recovering my own son and searching and doing just constant research. And I came upon you on the internet originally. I contacted you. I started trying them. And it was the candida issue that I just seemed to not be able to get a grip on with anything else. And there are so many things that they say you can do for that out there. And then most people at the doctor, they'll get something like nystatin. Well, that might give you a short-term fix, but long-term, you'll notice you keep having to go back to it because eventually it'll come back because it's not really getting in. People don't understand that Candida really gets into the tissues. It can hide itself. It can bury itself. It has biofilm that protects it. It can sometimes not even show up in some of the testing because it might be in the cells and not come out during the testing. So people will say, well, it didn't really come up. So I try to save people the money on testing as well. And but then again, back to the importance of going slowly because you want to make sure that you're starting, like I said, we talked about 1 drop a day and going as slowly as possible with your child in the beginning for safety reasons. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add? Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the ways that that the elixirs work is because if you introduce them too quickly, you will see the effects of detoxing too fast or killing too many, getting rid of too many pathogens too fast, etc.
Right.
Yeah,
when parents write it and they'll say, my child's having all these increased behaviors. I'm like, okay, this means it's working, but here's the troubleshooting and what you need to do for a few days before you resume. So, and then the muscle testing is key to know too, when it's time to resume and at what dosage. And that's why I say testing daily is really, really important because we change so quickly. We need to take a short break right here. You're listening to Naturally Recovering Autism. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Wondered why some children recover from their symptoms of autism while others never seem to get any better? After 13 years of research, Karen Thomas has recovered her own son from his symptoms of autism naturally. She now shares how she did it with you in her free webinar so that you can have the right resources and knowledge to help your child. The definition of recovery is to regain health. Karen offers this to you in 4 stages: healing the gut, natural heavy metal detoxification, balancing the co-infections of autism, brain support, and repair. Register now for this free webinar to help you know what you can do to help your child to sleep better, be more calm, improve focus, and reach their fullest potential to live a happy, healthy life. Go to naturallyrecoverinautism.com/free workshop, empowering parents with the resources to naturally recover autism from a mom who's done it.
Hi there, and welcome back to Naturally Recovering Autism. I'm your host, Karen Thomas, and I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. We've been talking with Robert Harrison about these natural, safe, frequency-enhanced elixirs and the ways that you can support your child's body during the detoxification process, and supporting them, especially even with things like sensory overload issues and sleep, and how important it is when you're getting rid of these pathogens and these toxins to again do it slowly and therefore safely. And if you see an indication that things might be moving or are moving a little bit too quickly for your child's body, is when you see a lot of behaviors increase. Hyperactivity, headaches, they can even get flu-like symptoms. They can all of a sudden get tantrums, become really aggressive when they may not have been prior, various things like that. And there are little side caveats to that as well. Some of these toxins, as they release when the system is getting overloaded, can strike something like a PANS flare-up. And PANS is an acronym for Pediatric Autoimmune Neuropsychiatric disorder, and it's associated with strep as well. And we can carry that in our body, and we can get triggered, and so you can see a sudden onset of symptoms. So again, very important to be sure that you're doing these things slowly. And again, in my free workshop, I talk about the 4 stages, and I include information about mold, Lyme, and strep, because they're very, very important in the process of autism recovery and getting the best results for your child, because those can cause a lot of aggressive issues, a lot of problems with sleep, and mood disorders, the pathogens as well. And so you can get a good handle on them, and starting the foundational aspects. These elixirs that we've been talking about are a great way to begin and to help the system safely. As I mentioned, the show notes will be at naturallyrecoveringautism.com. I will link directly to Robert's Elixirs, and if you want that link now directly, it's naturallyrecoveringautism.com/elixir, ELIXIR, and that'll take you straight to the page that again is also linked on the show notes page, because I want to give you some other resources as well as the muscle testing tutorial. I will add that to the show notes page right away. And so that you can kind of start practicing with that a little bit at home, practice with your spouse, your friends, other people, have fun with it and start understanding it and seeing how it works. It's kind of fun. I always like to use the name game. If you use your name, test for your name, you'll be strong. And then you have somebody test you for, or you test somebody for, and they say a name other than their own or other than your own if it's you, then you'll usually go weak. And that's kind of fun to see that. Or things like sugar, white sugar, things you know that aren't good for you that you can usually gauge pretty easily with those. So again, just have a little fun with it. And Robert, do you have anything that you want to say in our last? We just have about a minute or so left here, and I want to thank you so much for being here with us. I think this was really, really helpful. Again, I appreciate your work and everything you do, and I myself have had great success with these products of yours, and that's why I like to share them.
Yeah. So just what occurs to me is that there's really, the sooner you can be helping your child, the better. The more they can change, the deeper the change can be. And there's really no other options. You can't say, let's not do this. Your child is not going to magically get better. And your program, Karen, gives people a chance. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. And that is what it's all about to me. I feel exactly, I couldn't have said it better. I mean, you have to do something and you have to know what to do and be on the right path. So you're not just wasting a bunch of time and money, because both of those are valuable. And if I had known what I know now back then, I would have been able to recover my son a lot faster. But it wasn't about fast, but it is about doing it right. And that's what saves you the time. So again, thank you for being here, Robert. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Appreciate you being here and being a proactive parent. And take care. Please take care out there in the world, and stay safe and healthy. And we will see you next week.